Thank you very much, Christy. And welcome everyone to our webinar, Teaching Game Design and STEAM Engagement. So today we're going to talk about how game design is used in a learning environment to teach coding, particularly from a GameMaker Studio 2 perspective. This is a high-level look at the topic, but if you want to dig deeper into the technology, you'll be able to do so at the end of the presentation, as our CTO, Russell Kay, will be on hand to answer any of your technical questions. And here's the agenda for today. So to summarize, we'll look at how GameMaker is taught at grades 7 to 12. It's also used for teaching at university level as an art medium due to its simplicity and speed of prototyping. We have some feedback from 150 teachers who use GameMaker in the classroom.
Andrew?
Hello?
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you just speak a little bit louder?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So I'll just do that section again. We'll look at how GameMaker is taught at grades 7 to 12, and it's also used for teaching at university as an art medium. We have some feedback from 150 teachers who use GameMaker in the classroom. We'll look at how it is taught and the views of educators that use it. There'll be a brief overview of what GameMaker is, and then we'll look at our educator resources. Russell will demo GameMaker, and we'll look at licensing and our approach to privacy as well. And finally, as a thank you for making it all the way to the end, we'll show you how to get your free license and free educational content, as well as have the obligatory Q&A. So, teaching code with fun and game design. In this section, we'll be exploring teaching using game design. Last year, I sent out a questionnaire to our teachers and received 150 responses. I always thought that game design would be proven to be a great way to teach coding, but I was surprised that this came through as just one of the most important factors. You can see the chart which shows the semantic scaling response to the question, which was how effective are game design lessons at teaching the following? And looking at the top performing elements based on their ratings, where they achieved somewhat effective or better, we've got learning engagement in 94.6% of respondents saying its effectiveness is somewhat effective or better. Individual confidence is 94%. Planning is 91.4%. The student-teacher bond, which I think is really important, is at 90.6%. Learning programming languages at 89.3%, and class behavior at 86.7%. And here's how teachers approach the teaching of it. We're going to look at teacher resources that we've created for you to use free of charge that cover the first 4 approaches, namely making a game step by step using video and with the teacher leading, setting a project with objectives and also class discussion. For those of you with a statistical eye, the y-axis is the number of responses. So from 150 respondents, you can see that most of the time multiple approaches are often taken. This chart shows how teachers evaluate the progress being made by students when they're teaching coding using game design. Our free tutorials include fully documented teacher and peer evaluation criteria, and all 5 approaches that are documented here are supported and fully briefed in our new Educator Materials. So more on that soon. Before that though, more important than the numbers is often the context in which they occur. When running the survey, we got some great feedback from educators on how using game design has aided the education process at their school. So The kids are happier in class. There aren't behavior problems like in other classes. Games require creatives and tech teams to work together with a common goal to solve. While they build their games, they also build friendships, learn to overcome hardships and create something meaningful. My students very much enjoy the game design units that I teach. Personally, I think that game design is effective at improving problem solving, attention to detail, and teamwork. The students have learned to solve complex or abstract problems by themselves. The content provides a sufficient challenge and helps develop persistence and attention to detail. It has certainly enabled some students who are otherwise disengaged from the curriculum to re-engage. And there's a link at the bottom of this slide which takes you through to a news article that was undertaken by Ed Technology publication. And all the links that are in this slide deck will be sent through to you with the slide deck by Christy at the after the webinar has been completed. So before we get to the educator resources, I'd like to provide a brief overview of GameMaker Studio 2. It's first developed in 1999 for use in education by Professor Mark Overmars in the University of Utrecht. We recently celebrated our 20th anniversary of GameMaker, and the latest iteration, GameMaker Studio 2, whilst it's been out for coming up to 3 years now, it was a complete rebuild of the previous version. It's easy to use 2D game making tool. So being 2D is important because it removes much of the complexity. Drag and drop system for no code development. So students firstly understand the fundamental building blocks of coding and can then progress to pure coding when they're ready. So they move seamlessly and don't hit a wall. Custom language GML, GameMaker language. This is a JavaScript-like language and is based on C, and it's designed to be easy to use for game design and very simple to pick up. There are free teacher resources, which we'll be talking about shortly. There's a marketplace where teachers can download free and paid assets, tutorials and demos, which are complete game projects to investigate and modify. These aren't necessary though, but as everything you need is going to be available in our Educator Materials and free tutorials. But they're available there if you want to modify the games and maybe go further with out-of-class lessons. There's a large active community with a forum, social media, and beginner tips from the pros. So there's always someone to call on if you want some help or some advice on how to tackle a particular problem. Big studio credibility. Students can see hundreds of real games made with GameMaker. The link here takes you to our showcase with award-winning games. The iPad Game of the Year for 2019 was Hyper Light Drifter, which was made with GameMaker. But it has real credibility. It's not just an education tool. It's used by a lot of game studios commercially. Over 1,000 new users every single day register with GameMaker, and 90% of them are beginners. So whilst we are a professional tool, we are at the same time also a foundation tool. So we're taking people all the way through. So here is our Educator Materials. We have a full teaching program which is available free to download on our blog. And that's the link there at the bottom. It will take the teacher and the student through teaching and learning coding, as well as using those skills to make and extend a game that we've called Space Bubbles, where you pilot your craft, avoid and pop bubbles, and split rocks with your gamma beam as you race to the warp gate to get home. And here is a list of everything that's included in the materials. Space Bubbles is a project-based scheme of work where students work on one project over the course of 8 lessons. Over those lessons, students are taught how to program by recreating their own version of the game Space Bubbles. It's aimed at children aged 12 to 16, but can be used for older and younger. And it was developed by Terry Watt, who is currently a teacher and formerly a game designer. Students learn through a combination of teacher presentations, explanations, and demonstrations. There are written tasks, there's homework tasks, and there's practical programming tasks. The students will work through 3 categories of tasks during the project. Firstly, all students work through the tutorials to build up a core version of the game. And during these, they will learn how to use the GameMaker software and how to program within it. The scheme of work comes with both video and written versions of the tutorials. It's highly recommended, though, that the students complete the tutorials by following the video tutorials, as they contain more detail and the students can benefit from the instructor's demonstrations and additional information that comes with the voiceover. It's not possible for students to use the video tutorials, then they can use the written tutorials in their place. The videos are made available as video files, so they're not just on YouTube. You can download them as discrete files. After completing the tutorials, students demonstrate their learning by extending their own game through a series of extension tasks, and these extension tasks can be completed in any order. And then finally, students then build upon their learning by completing the challenge tasks. These tasks ask students to add further features to their game using the knowledge gained through the tutorial and extension tasks. Each lesson comes with a PowerPoint presentation that the teacher uses to guide the learners through the lesson. There's also a detailed guide on how to deliver each lesson for educators. There's a pre-prepared workbook that comes with a scheme of work. This should be printed out as a booklet and given to each student at the start of the project. The students will use this booklet to record key terms and key information during the lessons. Lessons accompany the step-by-step tutorials to help the student to understand the theory behind their work in building space bubbles. Looking at what's covered in this list, number 3 there is sequencing, and that's ordering actions. Number 4 is selection statements, which are used to select which code is run under what circumstances. And number 6 is iteration, which is repeating sequences of code efficiently and how to do that within GameMaker. This is the self-review, peer review, and teacher review schema that's used throughout the course. The workbook contains the assessment grids that the students use to self and peer assess their games during the project. The final assessment grid is for the teacher to use in the last lesson to perform the final grading of the students' work. As I mentioned, there are 3 homework worksheets that students are issued with at the starts of lessons 1, 3, and 5. These are to be printed out and completed by the students and then returned to be peer marked at the start of the next lesson. None of these require the use of GameMaker at home. Specifically, the 3 homeworks cover the following. The first one is mixing and matching, which is the one shown in the graphic, where you match the terms covered in the lesson to the description. Number 2 looks at the sequences required to make a hot chocolate. And the third one applies selection statements to the hot chocolate making sequence, as if you were instructing a robot, and you apply this to figure out what's happening in some GameMaker examples that are also additionally provided in the workbook. These are the tutorials that students follow at their own pace to make the game. There is a printed guide and step-by-step video tutorials, along with a GM project, a GameMaker project, for the start of each set of tutorials, so you can see what you need to achieve, or how it's going to look at the end. You receive the starter project and project for each tutorial, an executable game to play for each tutorial, a video tutorial, and also the written PDF tutorial. I'm going to play the game shortly, so the content of the tutorials will become self-evident at that point. These are the extension tasks that the student moves on to after completing the initial 6 tutorials. Of those that are less obvious, we have wrap player, which is moving outside the room on the right and then reappearing on the left, or vice versa. Target bubbles, which moves to the player's initial position. We've then got seeker bubbles, which consistently change to the player's X coordinate. And then we've got chase bubbles that consistently moves to whatever the player's position is at any point. And then side bubbles that enter from the left. And those can have target, seeker, and chase characteristics. And these are the challenges for the advanced students. So let's play the game and see what your students can achieve. So as you can see at the top there, we have lives. We've got bubbles coming down, and there are rocks. There's my gamma ray. And we've got these power-ups that you can collect. And we're measuring the distance to the warp gate at the top. There's a scoring system that we have in there. There's some things that you can do to shoot multiple gamma rays. And you can see that these larger green and yellow bubbles and blue bubbles have multiple lives associated with them. Just got an extra life. I think I'm going to need that. You're prevented from losing a life at the start initially. So you can see we've got these big clouds coming towards us. So it's a real fun game that students are able to play, and I'm losing lives at quite a rate here, but I think we're going to make it all the way through to the warp gate, and then we'll be able to get our way home. There we go, there's the warp gate coming into view, and I'm going to make a dash for it. There we go. And you may also like to investigate some of our other learning resources on our website or elsewhere on the internet. We have a breakthrough video tutorial, which Russell is going to talk about shortly. We've got blog articles from game developers showing how they made elements of their game. So these are professionals that have launched games, and they're providing some basic tutorials on how you can make elements of those games. And we also have technical blogs from the GameMaker team showing how things work and how to make the most of GameMaker. The one up here we've got is explaining blend modes. Our community are really helpful on our forum or through Twitter. There are several other places that you can go to as well. And we have a support desk which is available online and gives top priority to education support requests. And there's also first line support which is available from Studica. Okay, so this is a short video we made to show drag and drop, which is the most common starting point and the basis for the learning materials. So following this, Russell will do a short demonstration of GameMaker, which will show some of the fundamentals. So I'll just pass over to Russell.
you, Andrew. Drag and drop is GameMaker's simplified programming model, using a simple node network to represent blocks of programming logic. We include built-in code completion to aid construction and make it easier to make logic. I think we stopped the video, Andrew. So we've got our node layout here, and we can create code logic, and we also have code completion there, which allows you to easily make the logic. Our editor supports common idioms like cut, copy, and paste, a toolbox of easy-to-use commands that support common game programming requirements. We have lots of customizable features. You have customizable favorites. Full screen editing allows you to maximize the logic surface and supports drag and drop scripts along with event logic. The GMS2 environment allows the user to customize the layout, allowing UI to be scaled in multiple columns with an overview that outlines the code to view larger scripts. So you can see here on the left, we have an overview of what the script is actually doing. Drag and drop can be converted directly into GML code and allows students to be able to see how GML code works once they're familiar with the drag and drop, so they can make a transition easily once they're used to it. So, Andrew lets me in. I shall give you a quick overview of GameMaker itself. So here is the GameMaker initial interface. We have our recent projects down one side, and then across here we have a way to make a new project, open previous projects, import projects from previous versions of GameMaker. I have access to our marketplace, and our tutorials live in this button here. So top part here shows us what are owned, but that means which tutorials are downloaded. All tutorials are free. And our official tutorials, the ones that you haven't downloaded yet, would be down here in the bottom section. So we've got quite a few tutorials available. Just now we're adding to these each month as well. So here is the tutorial that we're going to look through, the breakthrough drag and drop one. We just download it by pressing that button, but I've already got it downloaded here and I've got a project. So this is the main GameMaker interface. Across here we have our resource tree. Our resource tree includes all of the resources used to make this game, and the tutorials come with all of these already active. And all materials required for a tutorial are included within that. So the resource tree has all the sprites. The sprites are the images which make up the game. We have sprites can be animated, and as you can see here, this is one of the pickups that we've got within the game. We have the bat. It's kind of for the game. That's nice and simple. That doesn't actually animate at all. It's animation. Here we have an image editor built in so that users can manipulate the images, which has a whole lot of layers that can be used, and you can animate across the top here. See, we step through all the different frames of that particular sprite. Our main workspace is kind of really where it's kind of things happen though. This can be zoomed in and out. We can move quickly between things. Our kind of resource tree across the side here has all of the elements that you actually need to make the actual game. We have scripts, we have fonts, our objects. While the GML language is not object-oriented, the GameMaker as a system is, and all of the elements are actually objects within the game. So object has a sprite. As you can see, this is the one from the ball. Here we have our events on the right-hand side here. This is a create event. So simply put, when a ball is created, these variables are set, and that's what our drag and drop design surface here is saying. We also have our step event, which is a bit more complicated. For a ball, it's going to move it around. And then also what happens when the ball moves outside the room, it's simply going to be destroyed here. So the drag and drop surface that we've got here is where all the logic is made. That again can be zoomed in and out. You can manipulate things. You can jump directly to nodes. You can say I've not got enough room there, so I'm going to maximize this. These can be easily moved and manipulated. You can add new things very simply. Once you've decided that this is how we are going to do it, to actually test the game, we can choose what environment we're actually going to test with. We support multiple platforms. You can also use the IDE on a Mac or Windows. We can then test just by pressing run. Run will go ahead and take the project as it currently stands and compile all of the assets. It will then turn it into something that our runner can actually use. And then it starts up. I shall just move it onto the monitor you can see. And here we go. This is the project running directly. We also have a built-in debugger so that the game can be monitored and any problems fixed. But as you can see, this is a simple Arkanoid breakout type game that can be created directly. We have lots of tutorials for different types of games, but that's GameMaker for you just now. Okay, Andrew.
Thank you, Russell. Over to the next slide. So looking at classroom licensing options, we have two types of license available, and these can be purchased through Studica. There's our Educator license, which includes desktop, so PC or Mac exports, and our Achiever license, which includes desktop, mobile, which is iOS and Android, web, which is HTML5, and UWP, which is Universal Windows Platform, which actually, rather excitingly, you can create games that can be put onto an Xbox One through the Microsoft Creators Program. So there are 1 year and 2 year options associated with these licenses, and the seats are concurrent use licenses, so they can be used for multiple classes. There's details at the bottom about where you can go to request a quote from Studica as well. So looking at privacy, which is always an important feature, the teacher acts as a seat manager, and they'll receive one perpetual Educator desktop license that they can use to investigate and set up. The seats are entirely anonymous, including the usernames and the passwords, which are randomly generated. So there's no personal information at all collected or processed or managed in any way. We have more information in our privacy policy, and a specific section, section 11 within the policy, details our approach to education, which is essentially we don't collect any data. So we mentioned at the start as a reward for making it all the way through to the end, and a thank you for attending our webinar, you're eligible to receive a free license of GameMaker. And Christy will send you the link, or when you receive these slides, you can click the button, and that will provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to claim your license. So over to you, Christy. Are there any questions?
Yes, we do have quite a few questions for you. So the first one is, can GameMaker software be run on Chromebooks or are desktops necessary?
The IDE needs to run either on Windows or a Mac. We don't currently support Chromebooks for the IDE, though the games that you make can be played on the Chromebook through HTML5.
So that's the Achiever license.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next question is, will there be any upcoming workshops available or online classes for teachers to learn how to use the software before teaching it to our students? Oh, Andrew, I think you're muted, just so you know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So all of our teaching materials are fairly self-explanatory, and there are video tutorials as well, which take you through step by step.
Okay, and that again, I will share in our follow-up email. There'll be a lot of information in there. Another question, does the GameMaker work on Chrome OS?
No, that would be the same as the Chromebook. So no, we only work on Windows or Mac for the IDE itself, or but you can target Chrome OS through HTML5. So the game for the games that are created, but from a teaching point of view, it is Windows or Mac is for the IDE.
Okay, and then another question, do you feel students need any prior coding experience exposure to be successful using GameMaker?
In our experience, no, they don't need any previous coding experience. It is a very simplified model and easy to follow.
So I think probably the best thing, obviously it's different for different people, but probably the best thing is to make use of the free license, and start looking at the teaching materials, because the teaching materials are there not just to help the student step by step, but to take the teacher through the process of teaching as well.
Okay, and then just one last question, it looks like, can seats also be used for after-school programs or activities?
Yeah, sure. You could basically use one license per machine, but that doesn't actually limit you to the machine that you're using the license on. So you know, if you've got another classroom that you need to use a license on temporarily, say, then you can go and move that license. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to move it back again for whoever's teaching the next day. But the license will automatically log out once the machine is closed down. So you can set that up. There's some details in our support materials, our education support materials, that will show you how to do that, and that would make that available to the original classroom.
Okay, I had one more question come in, and this is about curriculum. How many weeks classes does the curriculum cover? So I don't think it's directly a curriculum, right? It's information to help you create one, or can you clarify that?
So how to create?
I'm sorry, it was how many weeks classes does the curriculum cover?
How many
classes does it cover?
Oh, so there's 8 one-hour classes. So you know, the advanced students should be able to get through to the end of the challenge materials by the end of the eight classes, but it may be that it takes a little bit longer for some, but it will certainly cover eight lessons. And what we tend to find is actually that the students are really keen to work on this outside of class time as well.
Okay, and I have two more questions. How many seats come with the educator license? I believe that's based on we get the number of seats you need and we do a quote with the reps. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's based on what you need. They figure out how many licenses you need for that. And then another question, is there any free software to try out with the students?
So you can, there is a 30-day for anyone who signs up to GameMaker as an ordinary consumer. You get a 30-day free trial of GameMaker. But within the school environment, what you could do is you could take the free trial, the free license that we provide to you, and test that out using that as a seat to see how that works with students.
Okay. And just anybody asking about a recording of the webinar, I will definitely be sending that out afterwards. So whatever email address you use to register for the webinar, I will be following up with the recording and a link to the PDF. So I'd just like to close us out. Thank you so much, Russell and Andrew. As we can see, GameMaker engages students and is an excellent tool for teaching code and other STEM-related topics. So if anyone would like more information or would like to request a quote to get the pricing, please contact us at Studica. We will be happy to help. You can email us at info@studica.com or call us at 888-561-7521. And again, I will be sending a link to the recording and other helpful information like the PDF of the presentation. So if you do have any questions, feel free to email me at any time. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy your day.